A new home is like a small castle. We can be free and do whatever we want.
Nothing like your own home.
Yeah, they can play now. Yes.
And I can jump too.
You happy?
Yes. Very happy.
Good. Really, I can say it's like a dream.
Well, my name's Aníbal Torres. I'm a veteran. I suffer from PTSD. I suffer from major depressive disorder. When I first came in with nothing. They had an apartment, one-bedroom apartment. I think it's one of the best apartments I've gotten in my life. It's been a great experience. Services that they have are wonderful. I'm involved now with a group which is for PTSD. From where I was back then to where I'm now, it's 100% better.
Big time. Mentally and emotionally, he's better.
It's hard when you live with somebody, when it's not your own place, when it's not your own home. At least now I can say I'm going home.
When I came to Nazareth Housing, I didn't have nothing.
I lost my job. I didn't have nobody to take care of my son. I didn't have child support. I didn't have any idea of what to do. Nazareth Housing got me prepared to be strong and keep moving forward. Now I have child support in order. I got full time. I'm working. I have my place, my own apartment. When I moved from a Nazareth shelter housing, I didn't have to change nothing. The school is the same for my daughter, for my son. My job is still in the area. So everything is pretty much the same. The only thing is that our blessing, my apartment, is ours now. I can say I have my own place, and my children have their apartment. So I feel relaxed, comfortable, happy, blessed.
Every time you move in the shelter, it seems like even if the room is big, it still seems small. Each time you move, a part of you just dies in that place that you were in before. It's like, oh, here we go again. It's hard to keep going on and starting over, and especially if you have the responsibility of a young, beautiful girl that looks up to you. We moved around a lot in the shelter system. When I got to Nazareth, I felt more like this was it. This is when I was gonna make this big, tremendous change, and it was gonna be permanent.
She was able, while she was here, to get employment, a good, decent job. So I know that she's gonna be okay.
I feel like I was home to her. Together, no matter where we were, that was considered home. She has her own room. Could you believe she still wants to sleep with me? Every time you move in the shelter, it seems like even if the room is big, it still seems small. Each time you move, a part of you just dies in that place that you were in before. It's like, oh, here we go again. It's hard to keep going on and starting over, and especially if you have the responsibility of a young, beautiful girl that looks up to you. We moved around a lot in the shelter system. When I got to Nazareth, I felt more like this was it. This is when I was gonna make this big, tremendous change, and it was gonna be permanent.
She was able, while she was here, to get employment, a good, decent job. So I know that she's gonna be okay.
I feel like I was home to her. Together, no matter where we were, that was considered home. She has her own room. Could you believe she still wants to sleep with me?
Hey there, party people. We're about to get this event kicked off. So I'm going to need you to get your water, your snacks, and most importantly, your phone for some very fun teamwork we're going to do. I promise you it really will be fun. Oh, who am I, you ask? My name's Rebecca Naomi Jones, and I'm an actress. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, and I'm still here. I make my living doing theater most of the time, off-Broadway and Broadway, sometimes on camera work as well, but most of the time I do theater here in New York City, and I miss theater, but I also miss all of you. I'm so glad we're all here together tonight and that I have the honor of being your host. Welcome.
When I came to Nazareth Housing, I didn't have nothing. I lost my job. I didn't have nobody to take care of my son. I didn't have child support. I didn't have any idea of what to do. Nazareth Housing got me prepared to be strong and keep moving forward. Now I have child support in order. I got food stamp. I'm working. I have my place, my own apartment. When I moved from a Nazareth shelter housing, I didn't have to change nothing. The school is the same for my daughter, for my son. My job is still in the area. So everything is pretty much the same. The only thing is that our blessing, my apartment, is ours now. I can say I have my own place, and my children have their apartment. So I feel relaxed, comfortable, happy, blessed.
The next, welcome to Nazareth.
Welcome to Nazareth.
Welcome to Nazareth Housing.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to Nazareth Housing.
Welcome.
Halina kayo, punta tayo sa Nazareth Pantry. Welcome to Nazareth Housing.
Bienvenidos a nuestro evento de recaudación de fondos.
Welcome.
안녕하세요. Nazareth Housing.
Hi, welcome to Nazareth Housing.
Welcome.
Bienvenido.
Bienvenido.
Welcome to Nazareth Housing.
Welcome to Nazareth Housing's first ever virtual benefit. We are honored that you are celebrating with us tonight. My name is Rebecca Naomi Jones, and I am your host this evening. As a lifelong New Yorker, I know the value of the services that Nazareth provides for thousands of vulnerable families who are struggling now more than ever. And I am thrilled to be able to join you in support of this remarkable grassroots organization. COVID-19 has shaken us all. But for so many who were already experiencing homelessness and food insecurity, this crisis has brought them to the brink. There are now tens of thousands of New Yorkers facing eviction and empty cupboards, maybe for the first time in their lives, who have needed unprecedented levels of support. Nazareth Housing has risen to the challenge. In the course of these last 8 months, they stood up, showed up, and served over 33,000 individuals. Tonight, we honor their commitment to our New York community and ask you to help them continue their outstanding work. Throughout this program, you'll have a chance to hear the stories of Nazareth clients and staff, get a glimpse of Nazareth services in action, and of course, join in the recognition of our remarkable honoree, John Pierce. We also are taking a deeper dive into the issues of homelessness and food insecurity with an outstanding panel discussion moderated by CNN's Calvin Sims. I'm excited for a special evening ahead. Before the program begins, I want to orient you a bit. Just to the right of this video, you'll find a chat box. Please do sign in and join the conversation so that you can be a part of our community this evening. It is a great opportunity to say hello to each other and to send well wishes to our honoree and the Nazareth team. You can also take a peek below to sign our guest book, see our sponsors, and most importantly, get info on how you can donate and help Nazareth fulfill their mission of serving New York City's most vulnerable residents. At any point throughout this program, you can text housing to 41444 to donate. Please text early and often to help us meet our goal. Last but not least, today is Giving Tuesday. How appropriate! We hope you'll kick off the holiday season by supporting this important mission. With no further ado, let's begin. It is my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director of Nazareth Housing, Mary Kay Orr.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. We are so honored to have you as our host this evening. And welcome to our virtual benefit. Tonight is a celebration of nearly 4 decades of work, and most importantly, of 7 months of work in the midst of a pandemic. It is also an affirmation of our commitment to our mission to end and prevent homelessness, a mission that is more urgent now than ever before. When the pandemic hit our city and the city sheltered in place, our doors remained open. When nearly 40% of food pantries were forced to close, our pantry remained open. We redeployed staff. We diverted resources to meet the surging need for food. We expanded our offerings to distribute baby formula, diapers, PPE, and pet food. And we secured a grant through the Nourish New York initiative to distribute fresh produce and dairy products from upstate farms to our fellow New Yorkers. The need is staggering. Before COVID hit, we served 40 households in the East Village. Now we serve 150, sometimes 180. Before COVID hit, we served 150 households in the Bronx. Now we serve 300, sometimes 350, sometimes as much as 400. The line starts forming at 5 a.m. Nearly 50% of the people who come to our pantry are new clients. And consistent with our holistic service model, we assist them to meet other unmet needs, such as benefits enrollment and emergency cash assistance. In our residential program, we provided emergency shelter to 32 homeless families. And despite the pandemic, we helped 12 families find and move into permanent affordable housing. We are proud to say that every child graduated school in June and moved on up to the next level in September. Today, we provide remote access for learning, and our staff works with families to provide socially distanced homework help and materials. We were relentless about implementing safety protocols to protect our staff, our clients, and our community. We scrambled and searched every nook and cranny of the city to secure PPE for our staff, for our clients and residents, and for people in the food pantry lines. And we are really blessed to say that we have not had one single COVID positive case in our residences or among our staff, despite coming to work every single week. Our team also assisted clients to file unemployment claims, to secure economic stimulus payments, and to apply for affordable housing. More than 300 households were enrolled in benefit programs such as SNAP and SCREE to provide food and rental assistance. We provided direct support to more than 130 households to enroll in affordable housing lotteries. This work would not be possible without your support. Sadly, the need is not diminishing. Although the city no longer shelters in place, the lines still start forming at 5 a.m. at our pantry in the Bronx, and we feed more than 400 households a week. 20% of New Yorkers could not pay rent in September, and evictions will surge when housing court reopens in January. And with the virus resurgent in our community, the threat of hunger and eviction will only grow. we are here to meet that need. If you take one thing away from tonight, I hope you take that we are resolute and we are resilient. We will never give up. We will never stand down. We will mask up and show up in the months ahead to serve our community, to provide food, shelter, and supportive services. And with your help tonight, that will be possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your support, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
My counselor, Lillian, works for Nazareth Housing, and she has been my backbone when I didn't have one. She listens, and that is so important.
This faculty is the perfect faculty to come to. They're wonderful, they're supportive, they're kind, and they're like all the resources that you need.
Nazareth Housing has just been making sure that we have a place to call home and that we have food in our fridge.
Gracias a Nazareth Housing, alivió mis preocupaciones. Pude pagar el alquiler de vivienda que se me atrasó por no tener trabajo y compra de alimentos básicos.
They have helped my family by giving us programs to do when we was living there and making sure that we were okay and we had enough food, making sure that we had resources in the house, or we would go to field trips like as a whole group and have fun together.
Nazareth House me ayudó económicamente, gracias a Dios, en los momentos más difíciles porque no teníamos para comer.
Tengo mucho que agradecerle y mi familia también, porque son muchos los soportes que nos han dado durante esta trayectoria de 10 años.
And also they've been checking on us and making sure that if we ever need any of their support or any of their services, they are always available for me.
También dejé de trabajar temporalmente debido al COVID-19, pero mi administradora de casos, Elise, siempre se aseguraba de que mi caso de asistencia pública estuviera abierta para asegurarse que pudiera alimentar a mi hijo.
They make sure that you move forward with your housing, employment, and definitely your recreational when it comes to you going to school or bettering your children's lives.
Like when you go there, you meet new people, they become like very close to you to the point that you talk to them even after you leave the place. And having fun with them, creating memories is really nice. I love that.
We're the Gonzalez family. We were in Nazareth Housing. We had a great experience. There were great people there. All the people that are in Nazareth Housing are great people.
And I also wanted to say that Nazareth Housing is like a family for me.
Desde el 1 de julio tuve la oportunidad de vivir en Nazareth Housing. Encontré muchas cosas, encontré respeto, seguridad, confianza. Encontré que uno como madre debe de tener prioridades con sus hijos.
Agradezco a toda la organización que han hecho este propósito por mí. Gracias por la paciencia, por la ayuda. Gracias por hacerme tener ese logro en mi vida, de tener mi apartamento con mis hijos.
A memorable experience that I had with Nazareth was when my 2 teachers came and they brought pizza and they recorded me doing my valedictorian speech, and that was a memory I will never forget because it showed me that all the 5 years that I kept on working hard, it really paid off.
Because of them, I can now pursue my education and live in this permanent housing. Thank you, Nazareth.
In the future, I want to apply to college and graduate and be something in life.
And I'd say thank you for everybody over here because everybody's friendly, everybody good person.
And we love you guys very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'd like to talk to you about Louise's Pantry and Louise specifically. It It was very easy for my husband Jim and I to help launch Louise's Pantry back in 2012 because Louise loved to cook and she showed her love through her cooking. She's always there for you, very caring person, and her love was extended to not only her family of 6, but extended family of 26, and to anyone who needed her help. If she knew someone were home, ailing, alone, she would run to visit that person, and always with one of her delicious dishes. No one would ever go hungry. She would see to it. So I ask you, please help us keep Louise's Pantry viable so that we could help those who are suffering from food insecurity. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. The generosity shown by your family is truly awe-inspiring. And I am so excited to announce that the Fantaci family has committed to matching every donation made tonight to Louise's Pantry up to $50,000. So get to it. Text housing to 41444 right now to take advantage of this opportunity to double your donation. A $50 gift will be matched and become $100, providing 4 families with sufficient food for 3 days. $200 feeds 4 families for a week. I think it is astounding to truly understand what it is like to worry constantly about putting food on the table or having somewhere safe to sleep. And it is sometimes unimaginable to realize the number of New Yorkers in this position. That is why I believe this next conversation is so important. The more we understand the root causes of food insecurity and homelessness, the better we can work to solve it, along with community leaders like those at Nazareth Housing. It is my pleasure to introduce Calvin Sims, Executive Vice President of Standards and Practices for CNN, along with a group of esteemed panelists who will address these active crises through the lens of COVID-19.
I'm Calvin Sims, and it is my great pleasure to moderate this panel, which is exploring 2 monumental changes that we have faced amid the COVID pandemic: food insecurity and homelessness, which have shredded what was already a fragile safety net here in New York City and exposed all of the structural deficiencies. So first, I'd like to introduce Chris Weimer, who's the co-director of the Center of Poverty and Social Policy at Columbia University. Then there's Judy Kindy, who is Vice President and Market Leader in New York for Enterprise Community Partners, and Nancy Easton, Executive Director of Wellness in the Schools. We couldn't ask for a better panel of experts to help us understand and come up with solutions. According to the New York Times, nearly 1 in 8 households doesn't have enough to eat. Food banks are overwhelmed and can't meet demand. Why is this happening in New York City, of all places, and in one of the world's wealthiest countries? So I want to turn to Chris first to see if you can give us some statistics and put this in some context as to why this is happening now. Chris?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you. I'm happy to be here, unfortunately under these circumstances in the city, but I co-direct the Center on Poverty and Social Policy at Columbia, and one of the projects that I lead is called the Poverty Tracker, which is a study that focuses on adults in New York City, where we interview adults every 3 months and really track the dynamics of poverty, food insecurity, material hardship, and then other forms of economic and social well-being among New Yorkers over time. We just had a report come out on food hardship and how that's played out over the course of the pandemic. And I think one thing that we found was that that was kind of startling was that food pantry utilization in the city has doubled. Typically, it's about 12% of New Yorkers over a 12-month period who utilize a pantry. We're looking at rates around 25% right now. And then the other thing that was sort of surprising to us was that early on in the pandemic, around April, May, June, we weren't actually seeing a lot of increases in reports of food hardship. And so that was surprising, a little bit puzzling to us. But when we looked at the data in August, September, and now October, we see that actually food hardship is seeming to spike. And I think what's going on there is in the early months of the pandemic, you had the pantries doing a really admirable job and trying to sort of compensate for some of the increased need in the city as New Yorkers lost work, lost income. But then you also had government policy support. So you had increases in unemployment insurance benefits. You had the one-time stimulus payments that went out. And then what you saw at the end of July and in August is those benefits start to expire. And so the pantries can only do so much, even though they're doing an admirable job. And so you're starting to see food hardship spike, even though the pantries are doing all that they can to stem food insecurity.
Nancy, can you weigh in and tell us a little bit about what should be done?
First, I'd like to shed just a little more anecdotal story on all of Chris's great data. We're working with one pantry in the Bronx, and they had informed us, and we saw this, that they were giving away in 1 week prior to COVID. They were giving away in 1 day after COVID. So I know that sort of matches up with your average there, Chris. So, you asked the answer what's being done or what can be done. And, as you said earlier, there are no silver bullets. There's no one answer. As you said, Calvin, we didn't come to this problem overnight. We came to COVID with already over 1 million food insecure New Yorkers, which doubled, of course. But the pandemic is not necessarily the problem. The pandemic really is bringing to light the broken systems that fail to address really the fundamental causes of food insecurity, and which persistence rates of poverty, as you said, high numbers of low wage workers in this city, and then something that you really allude to, and sort of the growing income and wealth inequality. Both before and during the pandemic, a very significant portion of food security efforts have really depended on charity like Nazareth. So we work with the Federal Lunch Program, and that is one program that on some levels really works. In New York City feeds 1.1 million children every single day. That's a federal program. That number is only second to the US military in terms of institutional feeding. And when COVID hit, the system did not break down. It immediately adjusted to feed not only our children, but they then got waivers to feed all New Yorkers. But the system immediately shifted to their summer meal feeding program. But can we support an already functioning system like the Federal Meals Program?
Chris and Nancy have talked about the impact of the pandemic on food insecurity. And Judith, I'm wondering if you can speak to the same impact around homelessness. We're all bracing for this new wave of evictions that is expected to happen in New York City.
I think like with food insecurity, housing insecurity was already a massive problem before the pandemic even started. And so we have 25,000 children in our homeless shelter system. They also have parents. It's a total of about 60,000 people, 70% of which are part of families. It's an extraordinary number. And there are many, many more people who are on the verge of losing their homes because New York City is just an extremely expensive place to live. The amount of affordable housing decreases over time, particularly before the rent stabilization laws changed. We lost a lot of homes. And so we really started the crisis in a tough place. And when you think about, shelter at home and staying at home and trying to stay well in your home, not having a home is a significant problem. And Nazareth was an important partner in the Family Homelessness Coalition. It's been something they've been working on and thinking about. Obviously, they run really much needed shelters, which are being overtaxed today. And so today, as we're in the thick of the COVID crisis, we also are on the cusp of an eviction crisis. And that's really compounded for people who are undocumented, who are not eligible for many government programs, or people who are experiencing domestic violence, which has gone up during the pandemic and is also the leading cause of homelessness amongst families. So we really need all resources. We need federal resources, we need more city and state resources, and we need nonprofits like Nazareth providing homes, helping with advocacy through the Family Homelessness Coalition, and supporters like you all who are really the underpinnings of their ability to do this important work.
Let's talk a little bit about the impact of food insecurity on specific demographics. It's disproportionately, the impact is heavy on Black and Hispanic families.
So our data shows that there were very high levels of food hardship and food insecurity even before the onset of the crisis and even before the major losses in income and work that we've seen. Those losses were disproportionately experienced by Black and Latino New Yorkers. And so among the people who lost work or lost income due to the pandemic, over a third of them were experiencing food hardship even before the crisis. Those rates have spiked to 1 in 2, 50%.
And interestingly, Chris, most of those workers that you mentioned are those who are out on the streets now, feeding people, working as frontline employees, the low-wage earners.
A lot of people believe that homelessness is often attributed to personal tragedies like bad choices or misfortune. But you identified lack of affordable housing, illness, domestic violence, economic downturns. These are the real underlying factors that cause this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at its core, the reason why cities like New York have had a just massive uptick of homelessness over the past decade really correlates directly to rising costs in our city. And at a moment where our country is going through racial reckoning, we also really have to look at who's falling into homelessness and housing insecurity. And that is disproportionately Black and Brown Americans. And it has to do with a whole legacy of structural racism, particularly in the housing system where we've seen redlining and other forms of discrimination.
I'm going to ask the panel if you have any, what we might call radical solutions that should be considered in advance of this wave of homelessness that everybody's expecting.
It's important that the shelters we have are supportive of the people who live there, and that can include just small things that make a big difference, like good internet connection for the kids to have school and education continuity. And that's something we've been working on with Nazareth as a policy item for New York City. There is important rental assistance programs like Project Parachute, which Enterprise has been working on that provide rent relief and connection to services, particularly for people who otherwise would slip through the cracks, like undocumented workers. And then we desperately need large federal solutions.
Judith makes such a good point about connectivity. I know I recently read a report where still 80,000 children did not have computers to be able to do their schoolwork. 75% of the families in New York City living below the poverty level, mostly Black and Brown families, now will not be in school, and unlike their counterparts, will not have the bandwidth, the internet bandwidth, or the tech or the hardware to be able to do their learning. So again, this piece of systemic racism continues.
So what is the role of nonprofits like Nazareth House in taking these idealistic policies that are at the federal and state level and implementing them on the ground?
The role that Nazareth plays in its community is really like being a first responder. They are like the firehouse in the community that is taking care of all of the needs from health, food, housing, and it's really vital that nonprofits step in because we don't have a government system that takes care of all these needs. And it does require public-private partnership. And so for all of you who are joining and supporting Nazareth, it's really, really, really important what you're doing, and thank you very much. They're operating at multiple different levels, from serving on things like the Family Homelessness Coalition, where they're helping at the policy level to really try to change the system of what they're seeing happen in their community, to being there for the neighborhood, for the people who've lived there, to help them stay in their homes or to find housing that's affordable to them, or in the very worst case, living in one of their shelters and providing them with a safe, dignified place to transition back into a permanent home, which ultimately we all know is necessary to access opportunity and thrive.
I think one thing that's important to note is that navigating these systems and these policies is complicated, and organizations like Nazareth, I think, can help people figure them out and get access to the benefits that they need, in addition to the direct supports that the organization, directly provides. So, for example, helping people with their taxes to make sure that they're able to maximize their income support that they would get through programs like the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit.
Truthfully, we would not be in the even positive place that we are today without organizations like Nazareth Housing, really, through this pandemic. I mean, our city has so needed the really sort of grassroots efforts.
What are some of the long-term sustainable solutions to homelessness that we really need to rally around?
So we know that in the first 3 months of the pandemic, rental arrears built up, and the amount owed is about between $250 million to $400 million, which is staggering, and that only gets us to the end of June. And so if one extrapolates forward, it's certainly possible that that amount has grown to the $1 billion range, and there are solutions to this problem. So first, we need systematic programs to try to catch people up on their rent, and that can only come from some kind of federal relief program. We need comprehensive solutions, and there are many. I mean, there's certainly affordable housing, but the income ranges in affordable housing don't always reach those who are at the very, very lowest of income levels. And so they need vouchers to complement living in affordable housing, or even just vouchers on the open market. We have city vouchers. Sometimes the caps aren't high enough. We have housing choice vouchers from the federal government. Only 1 in 4 people eligible for housing choice vouchers actually receives one. And then we need solutions for people who may not be at a point that they can live in affordable housing, either because they're dealing with substance abuse issues, mental health issues, other things. And that's really where groups like Nazareth Housing are so important. Supportive housing is a proven solution to keep people safely at home.
We've analyzed proposals to make vouchers universal among people who are income eligible. And we find that across the country, over 9 million people would be lifted out of poverty if we made Section 8 vouchers a universal entitlement. And we would cut child poverty by about 1/3 if we did. Another somewhat radical idea would be providing something like a renter's credit in the tax code to support people who are facing affordability crises and rent relative to their incomes. So there's a lot of tax support for people who own their homes in terms of mortgage interest deductions, et cetera, but we don't really support renters in the same way. And delivering a renter's credit like that could deliver real material support to people who are in housing.
I wondered if you all could speak a little bit about what impact organizations like Nazareth have on individuals, not just by providing them a room or providing them with a meal, but the impact they have on actually meeting them for their human needs.
I think tonight, most of us, hopefully all of us, know where we're going to sleep. The folks who Nazareth serves, many of them do not. I really have just such deep appreciation for what Nazareth Housing does in their community. I mean, that is an open door.
There's a real human quality to this work that often sort of supersedes the policies, the regulations, the metrics of the work that you do. And that is for someone to be able to walk into a place like Nazareth and know the person at the door, know the person who is helping you, know the person who is filling out forms with you, and to see that person day after day, to see that person and to have relationships. And that human quality of personal relationships is really how change happens. That, of course, combined with strong government policies and funding.
And I guess lastly, I would ask, most ordinary citizens want to know what they can do.
Yeah, I think so much of this work is relationship based, and working with an organization like Nazareth who really understands and knows the needs of their communities. Yes, there's big government funding, and then there's the small grassroots work that needs support all the time.
But I think that the idea of going through organizations like Nazareth Housing is truly the best way to help out. They have volunteering opportunities, they have opportunities for donation, and they're really the ones who know the neighborhood, the community, and can bring the resources to those in need the fastest.
Very good. Well, thank you to all of you, Judith, Nancy, and Chris. It's been a very informative panel discussion.
Thank you so much to all of the panelists. Wow. Some of those statistics are truly staggering. I think what struck me the most was the concept of community-based organizations really being the first responders in terms of these issues that are so prevalent in our city and in our country. And I'm just impressed and deeply inspired by the holistic way that Nazareth provides help to people in need, and their commitment to that, their commitment to standing up and showing up for people in a way that is real and honest and full. And so it's not just a handout, it's really community. Sometimes the problem seems so big that it's hard to figure out how each of us can help. Nazareth Housing does such an amazing job of doing the work on the ground that most of us are unable to do. So today, we are reminded that supporting Nazareth is one thing that we can do now to be a part of the solution. Every donation of $150 provides an eviction counseling session to keep a family safely housed. $500 provides emergency relief to a family to pay past due rent and to keep the lights on. So pick up your phone and text housing to 41444 and make it possible. Next, I want you to hear from the tireless team at Nazareth Housing. These committed and caring professionals have stood up and showed up every day, despite the pandemic, to provide the necessary services and support for Nazareth clients. You'll love to hear their stories. And please join me in raising a glass to each of them to celebrate their unwavering commitment to making our world and our city a better place for every New Yorker.
Hello, and welcome to Nazareth Housing Annual Benefit. My name is Cynthia Barton, and I work for Nazareth Housing. I've been an employee for just a little over 16 years.
Hola, mi nombre es Richard Torres Santiago. Soy de Palchester y llevo un año de voluntario.
Hi, my name is Grimila Infante. I am the Food Pantry Coordinator at Nazareth Housing.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Víctor Ramos y todos me conocen como Wine.
My name is Stephanie Mendez, and I'm a case manager for Emergency Family Shelter at Nazareth Housing.
Hello everyone, my name is Siobhan King, and I'm the Homeless Prevention Coordinator at Park Avenue Thorpe, located in the Bronx.
During the pandemic, I showed up to work. Why? Because there was a need.
I showed up to work during the pandemic to advocate for my families, ensure that their basic needs are being met, and that they are well informed of the resources that are out there to help them and their families.
I showed up to work during the pandemic because I wanted my clients to know that they were not alone.
There was many families that needed our assistance with food, with entitlements, with applying for unemployment benefits, with ensuring safe and secure housing. And we were there to service them.
During the pandemic, one of my biggest roles was assisting our clients and as well as our children adapt from in-person learning to 100% online learning.
Al principio nosotros éramos participantes y ahora somos voluntarios.
Y durante la pandemia seguimos trabajando hasta el día de hoy.
¿Por qué siguen trabajando hasta el día de hoy?
Porque la verdad que necesitan el personal.
Y la comunidad necesita nuestro servicio.
When the pandemic first started, we saw an increase of clients in our pantry line. As a team, Nazareth Housing stood up, showed up, and served our community.
But we were there. We were able to do the work. We were able to step up and help those families in need, help families stay together, keep the community intact. It was not just a job, it was an obligation.
And this is a situation through COVID-19 that has affected everyone.
The greatest need in the months ahead would be housing, affordable housing.
I would like to be able to continue to provide our family with protective equipment so that they will be able to remain safe during the pandemic.
I'm looking forward to more workshops. I'm looking forward to more communication virtually.
What I'm most excited to see in the upcoming year is that I'm able to see is all the children that I've been able to help in our local family shelter, is that they're able to graduate successfully, achieve their goals, and as well as become the greatest leaders of tomorrow, because we need them.
I continue to show up every day to work because situations don't always change just because of a pandemic or because of the weather. The families are still in need.
What I'm looking forward to in the next coming month is I guess really to be able to be there for my clients.
And with your donations, that helps the needs to be met for us to continue to be able to provide the services that we need to provide for our families.
Overall, I look forward to myself and colleagues staying true to the mission, which is assisting vulnerable families and building pathways out of poverty and preventing homelessness.
The thing that I'm looking forward to the most is to continue to serve our clients and continue to provide the services that our community needs.
In this unique year, we are so fortunate to have an honoree who so closely shares the values of our dedicated executive director and staff, who have really just worked tirelessly over the course of the last few months dealing with COVID in our communities. John Pierce is Senior Vice President for Asset Services at Rockefeller Group, a leading developer, owner, and operator known for pioneering large-scale, mixed-use urban development. John oversees property management and facility services and all design construction programs for capital projects within the firm's Rockefeller Center portfolio. John also has a rich history of service in our communities. For over a decade, John has been a board member of Habitat for Humanity, a global nonprofit housing organization whose mission is to build strength, stability, and self-reliance in families who need decent and affordable housing. Habitat homeowners help build their own homes alongside volunteers like John. For over 2 decades, John has worked with the ACE Greater New York Mentoring Program. Students from New York City high schools are paired with mentors from the design and construction area, and they're taught the fundamentals of architecture, design, and construction management. With 79% of their students coming from minority and underrepresented backgrounds, ACE and their mentors provide internships that get these students off to great careers. John is currently assisting ACE to expand not only in New York City, but also nationally. John served Phoenix House as head of real estate facilities for their nationwide network of treatment centers. Phoenix House serves those in recovery from substance abuse and other mental health challenges. John is also a strong supporter of Urban Pathways, a nonprofit dedicated to moving and transitioning homeless adults into permanent housing. John is a contributing member of the Urban Land Institute, whose mission is to provide leadership in the responsible use of land and in creating, sustaining, and thriving equitable communities worldwide. John has served many industry organizations as a panelist, sharing his knowledge and experience in a way that has helped better the communities in which we work and live. John is, as you can tell, incredibly generous with his time, kind in spirit, and is dedicated to creating better outcomes for those whose resources may be limited or for whom life circumstances create obstacles, whether foreseeable or not. As we've prepared for tonight's event, we could not have had a more committed partner than John. John and his network of supporters have helped to make this event a successful one, which is so, so critical to the work that Nazareth Housing does. It gives me tremendous pleasure to introduce our honoree, John Pierce.
Good evening, and thank you for that introduction. Rockefeller Group, my colleague and Nazareth Housing board member, Pat Gloriosa, and I are honored to be part of this virtual benefit and supporting Nazareth Housing. Tonight, I would like to share with you a few brief comments about the importance of community service to Rockefeller Group and to my family, and how we support Nazareth Housing. The myriad of challenges during the past year mean that the critical services provided by Nazareth Housing are more important than ever. And you really have delivered. Great strides have been made in successfully delivering food to those in need, housing to the homeless, and helping to find a pathway out of poverty. My wife Carol and I have been very fortunate, and we feel it is both a responsibility and a privilege to be able to give back to the community. Another way of saying that, it is both a duty and an opportunity. The focus of Rockefeller Group is the ownership and development of premier properties. This includes large office buildings, huge logistics centers, and residential towers in major metropolitan areas around the country. As proud as we are of our business accomplishments, what we are most proud of is our ability to give back to the community. We recently completed a 62-unit affordable housing development in New Jersey for United Way. This will be permanent housing for over 100 adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. This is yet another example of our commitment to community. And so it goes with my personal involvement with Habitat for Humanity, ACE Mentor Program, Phoenix House, and now proudly Nazareth Housing. To be involved here is both a joy and an honor. There are so many people in need in our communities, especially in these unprecedented times. Each of us can do so much to help rebuild communities torn by the pandemic, economic woes, systematic racism, structural inequality, and so many other challenges. And there are so many people like you who have participated in this year's event and stepped up to make a difference. We thank you all for supporting this event, especially our major sponsors. Your contributions will allow Nazareth Housing to continue delivering on its mission. Thank you for this recognition. We hope you have a safe and happy holiday season.
Congratulations, John, and thank you for all you've done for Nazareth Housing. Tonight, we remember our friend and fellow board member, Steve Edwards. Steve left us on April 8th, the day that New York City experienced the highest death toll from COVID of the pandemic. Our hearts go out to his wonderful wife of 44 years, Robin, their 3 children, and their 3 grandchildren. Steve led the board of Nazareth Housing for 20 years, and we remember him tonight for his creative mind and caring heart, his vision, strategic sense, and brilliant legal mind, his strong leadership and judgment through many times when the chips were down and the path forward was fraught, for his friendship, loyalty, and integrity, for the difference he made to the lives of so many families who moved from homelessness to the empowering and sustaining care of Nazareth Housing, thanks to his talents and commitment to the mission. And last, but definitely not least, Steve would always want us to remember that he was an initial inductee to his home state of Iowa's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Steve meant so much to all of us and to Nazareth Housing. May his memory continue to inspire us all to build community and to help out others in need.
Thank you so much to Mary Beth and to John for your dedication and service to families on each block of this city and beyond. This was an amazing event. I was blown away by every story, every testimonial, every act of kindness. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it. On behalf of Nazareth, I want to thank tonight's Guardian sponsors, Anna and James Fantaci, Turner Construction Company, Benjamin Lawsky and Jessica Roth, Jennifer Lake and Donald Donovan, and our visionary sponsors, Rockefeller Group, Pritchard Industries, Mary Beth Hogan and John Kenny, as well as all of our dream builders, advocates, and partners. Your generosity made tonight possible and makes the work of Nazareth Housing possible every single day. And thank you to every single person who made a donation tonight. Your generosity and kindness tonight translates directly to services that will change the lives of New York's most vulnerable families. This is what Giving Tuesday was meant to look like. Congratulations once again to John Pierce and the entire Nazareth team. Thank you for spending your evening with us. I'm wishing you good health and a very happy holiday season. Good night!